There's a lot of people that are striving. They're striving for, personal gain. They're striving to get another degree. They're striving for this or that. And what I've been trying to look at is, what's the end goal? Now that you've been given this opportunity, now that you've been given an education, now that you've been given amazing resources and connections through university, through all the people that I've met in my time there, what's the response and how can I turn and steward those gifts? 80% of international students that come to America say that they never step in an American home. And I really think that that is a sad reality. And I want to change that because people are coming here and I can have an impact and just be a friend to them.
Welcome to the One Pebble Podcast. Today I'm excited to be in studio with my son and co-host Harris Duininck. And today we're going to talk about encouragement in a few different ways. In the next 30 to 40 minutes, we're going to visit about identity. We're going to talk about living a life of service, and we're going to talk about gratitude. I'll just say that neither Harris and I, we don't have all these answers. We never will. We're going to die a work in progress. But it's fun to visit about these things today. Harris, I'm excited to be with you.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me in. It's really fun to be in the studio. I've joined online a few times, but this is actually my first experience in studio, which is really exciting. Like you said, being a work in progress is something that is evident in my life, and like you said, your life, but it's really cool to learn from someone that you admire a lot, and to just be here and record a little bit, and maybe someone will find it cool what we're talking about. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Harris. Before we begin, what are you excited about these days? Tell us a little bit about what life is all about for you right now.
Yeah, so I just got back from the Philippines. I spent 10 weeks there. We recorded a podcast. I don't know if it'll be released at the time, but you can be looking for that one about my experience there. Just an amazing, life-changing experience. So yeah, it's really exciting. Life is moving fast. Just turned 21, and I'm just really enjoying where I'm at.
That's wonderful. Harris, when I look at you being 21, as you just said, I think about what the world says compared to who we all are in Christ. And the world says, and I want this to be positive today. I want it to, hopefully bring peace to people and joy to people and encouragement to people. But I feel like as humans, there's kind of a fight against who we are and our identity in Christ, but yet what the world says that we're supposed to be. And we all have fear, we all have struggles, and that's part of life. It was never said that it was going to be easy, but I think the world often says we need to be, we need to have a certain amount of education, or we need to be a certain size, or we need to be accomplished this by this age, or, we kind of have a self-imposed timeline as to what success looks like in the world. But when we break that down, that's really not true. And I think, how do we remind ourselves that our joy comes from the Lord, our peace comes from the Lord, and if we can keep our identity in Him versus all the pressures of the world. So what does it look to be 21 years old, and how do you navigate that? And I'll just say again, you're not doing this perfectly. I'm not doing this perfectly. We never will. But how do we keep fighting against this?
That's a pretty interesting question, especially for like the place in life that I am right now. There's a lot of people that are striving. They're striving for, personal gain. They're striving to get another degree. They're striving for this or that. And what I've been trying to look at is, what's the end goal? What am I looking at? What is my main objective in my life? And really bringing back my desires and my smaller goals to reflect on what is my main goal. I think I'm still learning that. I think that's, like you said, a work in progress. What is your end goal? But it also reminds me of something really interesting. In one of the first podcasts we recorded with Dr. Abrams, he was talking about his life struggles with addiction, and he was really talking about how he lived life as a Christian before, but he was making himself king. that he was the king making his own desires. So I think as a young person, to listen to Dr. Scott and to reflect on that for multiple weeks now of, okay, where can I give up? Where am I still leaning on my own desires, leaning on my own understanding? What can I give to God? And really trust him with the process of life, but still also trying to be successful in what I do and trying to use the skills that God has given me and steward the abilities and the resources and the time in order to honor and glorify him.
When you were in the Philippines and Africa, is there ways that you kind of learned, is there ways that you learned more about your identity there compared to what they have and don't have, and then coming back to America and kind of navigating all the materialism here, yet the wonderful place we live in? Is there ways that you learned from that experience as to your identity?
So I met a friend there in Africa. Actually, I was there before the Philippines, and he recommended a book. It's called Stewards, Not Owners. And in the book, it really talks about how do you steward what you've been given. And a lot of the book is about financial stewardship, and I'd recommend anyone that's listening to read it. It's a new book, very, very good. But as a young person, I don't have the financial resources that many people do, obviously, in their older years of life after they've worked for a while. But it's not really about stewarding that. It's about stewarding what's given to you. And in America, a lot of people are given financial resources. And I look at myself as I've been given a lot more than that. I've been given the ability to go and study at a tier 1 research institution. I've been the ability to go and serve the ultra poor across the world and learn from them and humble myself in that ability. And it's really a response. It's okay, now that you've been given this opportunity, now that you've been given an education, now that you've been given amazing resources and connections through university, through all the people that I've met in my time there, what's the response and how can I turn and steward those gifts in order to build up the Lord? And I think that through my time there, meeting people that have pushed me into understanding like financial stewardship, understanding time stewardship, it's really moved my heart into a heart of service and really wanting to help other people that are in need, because our world is full of need and there's less hands that are willing to help.
And just a little bit, we're going to talk about response. I love that you said that, and having a heart of service and what that can do for us. But if we can, within our humanness, keep listening to those promptings, keep listening to those pebbles to create the largest ripple effect possible in our life, we have to do that within our humanness. And hopefully we're doing that with the listening ear. But at the end of the day, I'm so excited about, I'm not defined by this past mistake or this falling short or that. I think we have to remind ourselves that our identity isn't in all that we accomplish or don't accomplish or what the world says, but really just to find our joy in Christ and our strength and our peace, and to march on for His will to be done. And that takes a lot of pressure off of me. And as your mom, now you're trying to decide, and Elsie, your sister, everyone's trying to decide kind of what are they doing next. And I try to remind you both that keep marching on, keep listening to those promptings, keep doing what you can do in your human strength that is right with character, but really let it bring you peace, that this is so much larger than who you are and not to be defined exactly by what the world says. So I don't want to be hung up on the world. I'm high on the world. I'm excited about the world. I love the world. I love people. But I really think it's something every day that we have to tell ourselves, what story are we telling ourselves? What mindset do we have? What do we believe or not believe? What's true or not true? And sometimes our mind is the biggest thing going for us or against us. So we have to keep that in check. And is there anything else that you want to say from your generation or your experience as to identity for us to be encouraged, or something you're working on?
Well, thank you for the kind words. I think that I really appreciate that. And I don't know. I would say that for me, I've seen and met a lot of people that are doing good around the world, and not all those people are Christians. Obviously, I'm a Christian myself, but I've seen people doing good in places because of a call to service. And that call isn't necessarily for God, but it's a call to humble yourselves and to serve other people. And what I've learned is that those people around the world, in our own communities, people in jobs of public service, people in jobs of, even in for-profit companies that are serving their fellow employees, are the people that are alive. They're the ones that are truly alive, and they're truly going to work happy every day. They're doing what they're doing because they love it. And I heard a quote one time, I don't know who it's from, but it said, the people that are remembered are the ones who gave more than they took. And I think that's a really, really cool representation of what it's like to live a life of helping other people. And I don't know about anyone else, but when I die, I want to be remembered as the person that helped other people. I want to be remembered for the stories, not for what I did for myself, but for who I impacted and for what ways I did that and how I treated other people. That I think is something that is beyond even just being a Christian, but it is a call that a lot of people have that are doing good around the world. And it's just amazing.
You gave your mom some goosebumps. I'm inspired by you. I love what you said, and I'm not doing this perfectly. I never will be. But when you talk about joy and living the most happy life, when I'm serving, when it's, I get stuck in my head some days, but when I'm out of my own pride, when I'm out of my own head, when I'm doing that one act of encouragement or volunteering or serving, whatever service looks like, truly, I think that is when we are often the most happiest and living our best self. It feels so good to give back. It feels so good to make a difference.
Yeah. And I've definitely had experiences in times in my life where I think it's hard, or, where do you start? How do you get into just helping someone? But it's as simple as saying hi to someone that might be overlooked. Or, for instance, I'm actually a part of an organization at Texas A&M called Aggie Nations, and their sole purpose is to generate friendships between international and domestic students. And there's over 6,000 international students at Texas A&M, and 80% of international students that come to America say that they never step in an American home. And I really think that is a sad, sad reality, and I want to change that because people are coming here, and I can have an impact and just be a friend to them, simply saying hi, simply, asking about their life back in India or China or the Philippines, wherever they might come from, and learn and connect cultures to one another. That's been a way that I've stepped into a very self-fulfilling, sadly, but also community-filling, creating relationships and friendships that have just built amazing opportunities and friendship and relationships at A&M.
Did you tell our listeners that you just became the president?
Well, I didn't say that part.
Well, your mom's going to say it. So I'm so excited about what you just decided to go for. And what's cool about you is I know you said, may the Lord's will be done. And some people listening to this may be following the Lord and they might not, which is just fine. But if you and I can plant seeds, that's the goal, and help to encourage. But how did you decide in the essence of living a life of service? You've been a part of Aggie Nations at Texas A&M for 3 years. I know this is a huge commitment. You were just awarded with this title of being the president, and I know it's not for your praise, but how did you decide? Because often on the One Pebble podcast, we talk about courage. What is the next step that we can do to make a difference in the lives of others? How did you decide, I'm going to go for this? I'm going to run to be the president, and if I get that position, great. If I don't, I don't.
Well, it's an organization I've been involved with for 2.5 years, and I was approached and asked if I would go for the position, and I felt a calling to help international students and continue in a role of really supporting the organization and creating university relationships. And I went for it and prayed a lot about it and got the position. But I think what really drove me to do it is when I spent a lot of time abroad, I was thinking about purpose a lot. I was thinking about, okay, I don't really want to come out of school and get my CPA, like I was saying, and work at a desk job and just continue to do a life that, in my mind, and some people would not agree with me, but seems a little mundane, not something that is exciting, not something that is creating purpose. So one question that I've been asking a lot of people that I admire, a lot of people in business, a lot of people in nonprofit world, and I want to ask you, Mom, is where do you find your purpose?
I think it's in serving. I think I'm most I love to encourage. Harris, I love to be an auctioneer, but even more than being an auctioneer, where I'm most filled up, most joyful, most excited, most Kristine is, and feel most purpose. If I can and the cool thing is it doesn't even cost money. I get to do it for free, and I don't know what the ripples will be or won't be, and if it's for my pride, may it all crumble. But aside from being your mother and Elsie's mother and Dad's wife and following the Lord, what I'm most excited about in life, second to auctioneering, for higher, more. Is that correct English? Better, higher, more,
Something
first.
like that.
Something like that. Above auctioneering, what's filled my cup the most, what I'm most excited about and love to do in life, and it's genuine. I think something that people don't know about me is if you barely know me, you might think, who is she? Is this real? Is this genuine? Is this authentic? But I love people. I love people, and I love to encourage people. Because I don't think, I'll be honest with you, I don't think a lot of people get encouraged. So if I can live a life of service and have different ways of encouraging people, and that might be Zoom calls, that might be going on a mission trip to Africa, that might be our local grocery store. If I can make people feel seen and heard and valued and looked at and truly give them genuine, authentic words of courage, it doesn't even have to cost money. And I'll encourage the listeners. It can be at the local grocery store. It can be filling your car with gas. So I'm sorry I get so excited. Encouraging people.
Well, I think something that fascinates me, like I was saying, is people's purpose. And purpose can drive someone to do amazing things. It was just incredible to meet people like you have met and people that you have connected me with from across the world who are doing amazing things that seem maybe undesirable or seem just counterintuitive compared to the American culture of, okay, going and getting a stable job and going and doing something for many, many years, rather than pulling yourself off the pedestal and doing something that really brings you purpose can drive someone so much further, and to be passionate about doing something day in and day out. And I've really seen that in your career. I mean, you've been an auctioneer for 27 years.
30 years this summer.
30 years. And
That's
to continue
how old
to
I am.
do something day in and day out, really you have to have a purpose. And I didn't really think about this till now, but if there's any listeners that want to talk to me about purpose or share their purpose, because it's something that I'm really trying to navigate in life, is where do I find my purpose? I'll throw my email in the show notes, and you can shoot me an email about a career that you've had or an idea that you've had or what you've done in your life, maybe outside of work. It could be in just local volunteering or whatever you've done to really find your purpose. I'd like to hear stories about that.
Harris, the other thing I think that our family talks a lot about, and we didn't coin this great terminology. We heard it from someone else, and it really stuck. It's something that's drove us, is to encourage people to find what they're good at, find the intersection of what they're good at and what breaks their heart. Go for the intersection of what are you good at and what breaks your heart. For me, and I'm not insinuating that people walk around sad every day. Maybe people don't even need my encouragement. And there's plenty of opportunities that I miss, and I'm not doing this perfectly, but I feel like people need to be encouraged, and it's something that I have confidence and feel purpose in. And so what you just said, you want to hear the stories of the listeners, and I love that. Call this guy. We'll put it in the show notes and tell him what you're thinking, tell him what you're doing. But for people to really, and I think this goes back to identity, it goes back to joy, it goes back to purpose, it goes back to calling, it goes back to so many things. But if people can, within service, really serve and find purpose, they'll be more joyful. They'll be more happy. If we get out of our own heads, that's where the joy is. That's where the happiness is.
I really like the analogy of finding the intersection between what you're good at and what breaks your heart. Because there are a lot, from my mind, from the people I meet, there's a lot of people who do stuff that they're not good at. And they're not, I'm an economics student. I'm very interested in efficiencies. They're not doing what would be efficient. And we talk about that every day in class. But to do something that you're good at and something that really can give you purpose, that's the breaks your heart part, is something that I'm really passionate about and something that I want to dive deeper into and have more conversations with you and Dad and other people that I respect, maybe some listeners, about how to find that and how to navigate that, especially as a young person who acknowledges that he doesn't know everything and he doesn't even know much.
Well, and I think what just came to mind, I should have said it earlier, is following your heart. If people can keep following their heart and find service that is within the realm of following their heart, it's going to feel so good. It's going to bring peace. It's going to bring happiness, and it'll make a difference in the lives of others.
What do you do when you say follow your heart, or maybe listening to calling, or those words that some people think are maybe magical or mysterious or supernatural?
For me as a Christian, I think it often comes down to my quiet time with the Lord. It comes down to just kind of listening to those promptings from Christ. But I know in my gut, in my kind of heart of hearts, when I'm in my lane as far as following my heart. And I just encourage people, follow your heart. What does it mean for you?
I don't want to be like, make you be caught in something, but the Bible talks about not following your heart and following that says the heart is deceiving. In what ways do you decipher between the heart of my desires and the heart of God's desires for you?
That's good. I like that. That's so true. And you're right. I think it comes down to following. It's God's desires.
Well, because I think when some people say follow your heart, it can become okay, my heart is I want to do and something that's, counterproductive or something that isn't aligned with God's view of your life or God's view of how you should live life. And that's really my heart. That's the heart of a sinner. And I think when your heart is transformed, you can probably say that your heart is also speaking from God. But how do you practically listen? Do you hear God's voice, or is it kind of a gut feeling, or through reading scripture?
Mm-hmm. It's not audible. It's just a gut feeling. It's just through scripture. And you're right. I'm glad that you said what you said. Following our heart, that could possibly not be biblical. So we need to follow our heart within the realms of integrity and character, and as Christians, what we believe is true. What is following your heart for you? And I don't expect you to have a perfect answer, because I think it's something that we're thinking about. And the whole discussion today is things that we're working on and thinking about.
Well, like I was saying earlier, I think there's been a lot of times where I've been the center of my heart. Like, that's when you say follow your heart. I've definitely followed my heart and led a sinful life because I've done what I wanted to do, not in what God's desire was for my life or what I should be. And I was putting myself, like I said, as the king of my own life. And I think the more you reflect on that, the more you realize you're the king. And the longer you think about that, you're more and more and more of a king. And you realize you have to pull yourself away from things more and more and more. And I think recently, I wouldn't say 6 months ago that God spoke to me audibly. I wouldn't even have said he really speaks to me until recently. And I still don't hear God's voice audibly, but I think that through reading my Bible more and through really trying to listen to what is his calling, what is his purpose, he's given me just moments, just brief moments where I've done things that have changed how I view him. For example, I wasn't going to go into work a week ago. I have a job in College Station, and I hadn't been there for a long time. And someone texted me, asked if I could pick up their shift, and I really didn't want to do it. And I felt just a desire to go that was counter to my actual desires. I wanted to do all these things for the day. I had homework to do. I had people I had to go visit. I hadn't ate any breakfast, but for some reason I felt like I needed to go into work that day. And I just did. And I got in the car and I thought, why did I say yes to this shift? I shouldn't have done that. I'm hungry. I'm got all this stressful homework. And I got there, and my boss there, I only worked a 3-hour shift, and we had a 45-minute conversation while we were working, just an amazing God conversation about how we have been recently. And it just was such an encouragement to me in the moment that I had needed to hear exactly what she told me. And on the way home, I really thank God I saw his provision in my life in that moment, that he wanted me to go into work. And there's been several moments like that where I've thought, okay, maybe this is God's voice trying to speak to me, trying to tell me to live life, listening to him more and leading his desires rather than, okay, how do I fill myself up for the day? How do I, man can't live on bread alone. I really needed that encouragement that day. It was really cool.
Harris, are you willing to share with us what she said to you? How did she encourage you?
Yeah, I was just sharing about my experience in the Philippines and abroad, and I was really struggling with kind of the whole thing of finding purpose, listening to God, the stuff that we've been discussing, and also the joy and pain dynamic that you love to talk about, where coming back from a third world country it's joy to be home. It's joy to be so grateful and thankful for what you have. And it's immense pain to be thankful and grateful for what you have, because you have so much more than other people. And you've been given all these gifts and all these resources and education. And you just know that your friends elsewhere don't have the same opportunities as you. And it's sort of like a survivor's guilt, but it's also a calling to, okay, how do I respond to this? And she gave me some just amazing encouragement off of, how can I respond to it? And she really was very thankful that I came in that day, because she was having a Bible study later that night, and she had to share some Q&A answers, and she was going to use my story of coming in. And I told her that. I said, this was really, really encouraging for me, and it's what I needed to hear. And it's something that I wasn't getting the encouragement that I needed from my friends and from my roommates. And it was just kind of like a motherly figure that stepped in and lifted me up in that moment.
I love that you listened to the prompting to go. And I know her name is Mama C. And I love that Mama C, who's the house mom of this entire sorority that you do the dishes at.
I kind of left that part out. Yeah, my job is actually working at the sorority house of Kappa Kappa Gamma on the campus, or it's not on campus, but at Texas A&M, and feeding the girls, making sure that they're taken care of, and helping the chef support him and cooking a little bit and washing dishes and serving food. It's a really fun job. You only got to work lunch and dinner times, and you get food every time you work. So it's really fun, actually.
You know what I just thought of, and I don't want to take this in too many directions, but it's the truth. I am the farthest thing from a perfect mom. I will die a work in progress. But even with your mom being as encouraging as she is, you didn't need your mom that day. You needed Mama C. She filled a role that I didn't even know you were struggling that day. I probably wouldn't have said the words that she said. And it's a reminder to us, something as little as encouragement Harris might look like he has life all put together and he has all the confidence in the world. And he might look like he never needs encouragement. But God used Mama C that day to speak into your life. And I think for our listeners to just be reminded, man, if you have that gut feeling, that prompting, you're looking at someone at the gas station, at the grocery store, you know the person, you don't, just do it. Go encourage that person. Ask them how their day is. Something that simple.
I love the spontaneous encouragement, but I think it's even more important. People that are really close to you, you tend to encourage less, in my mind.
True.
I live with 5 other guys. There's 6 of us that live in the house, and we honestly, like, especially guys that are 21 years old, we tear each other down a lot more than we encourage each other. And when we ask each other, you know, how are you doing? And not just how are you doing, how are you really doing? Like, what's going on in your life that I don't know about from, you know, having just the day-to-day conversations that we're having, or, you know, father-son or mother-daughter, or, you know, to cousins, relatives, other friends. I think the closer people are, the less you have those intentional questions, because it just feels maybe awkward, or maybe that you're so close that you don't need to ask that stuff, or maybe I should know how they're doing and I don't, so I'm not going to ask and just act like I do. And I think that's something that I need to get better at, that I just kind of thought of now, you know, being more intentional with my time and with my questions, and encouraging the people that I love the most, while also encouraging spontaneously who's around us.
No, thank you. And you're right. I might encourage the people at the grocery store, but I don't probably encourage your dad enough, or you and Elsie enough. Excellent reminder.
Oh, that wasn't a shot at you.
No, it's the truth. We don't encourage the people that we often love the most. I want to say one more thing before we talk about gratitude. I appreciate you being honest with me. And you knew what I was trying to say, but you pulled it out of me. And I get just a little emotional. When you said, Mom, what does following your heart look like? And I thought I was saying the right things and they were truthful. But you said, no, Mom, following your heart can't always be our own desires. And you're exactly right. Like, I can think of many times in my life as a human with my own sinful desires where my pride's got in the way, my agenda's gotten in the way, my own selflessness has gotten in the way. I've put myself ahead of the people around me, and quickly the wheels come off. That doesn't go so well. And so, thank you for being honest with me. Harris, let's talk about one more thing, and that's gratitude. Something that's helped me. Don't do this perfectly. Could do a much better job. But if I get up and again, I recognize, and we hope that there's a mass of people listening to this, and we recognize some may or may not be believers. The desire is to plant a seed and have people possibly get to know Jesus and a life with him and the joy he brings. But my morning routine, and some days I sleep in and I completely fail. But there again, that's what the world says, that you're supposed to get up and have this perfect morning agenda. Some days I do that well. Some days I don't. But I love coffee. I love coffee to a fault. Harris, someday you're going to know you're old when you are excited to go to bed because you know that you can then more quickly drink a cup of coffee. Then you're going to know that you're old. I haven't experienced that yet. Have you experienced that yet?
I do enjoy coffee, though.
But when I get up, and I want to talk a little bit about gratitude, and it ties back into living a life of service. When I center my heart and I spend some time with the Lord and kind of have my God time first, but the days I do a good job centering my heart around gratitude and counting my blessings, giving them all back to Christ, I have fallen short of his glory every day. They're all because of him. They're not on my own strength. But I think there too, the world can be tough, and it can be negative, and it can be so beautiful and so difficult, but how do we count our blessings? Now, I'm mindful, probably some of our friends in Africa hopefully will listen to this. Our friends in the Philippines will hopefully listen to this. And gratitude for them and blessings might be 2 meals a day. They might be different than our blessings here. But I am working at counting my blessings, being thankful, counting my blessings.
The interesting part about that, you were just saying that the blessings and gratitude might be different. That is extremely evident if you go to a country abroad or to a place where people have different resources, that it is very, very, very evident that people with less are grateful for more. They're very grateful for one meal. And that is something that has really twisted my perspective, that, when I have a plate of food in front of me, or I have just a, beautiful sunset or a nice day like it is outside today, that I really should take a second and think to myself and take a deep breath and say, thank you, Lord, because that is a daily blessing. And I think in a society where people strive for more and more and more, it can become really mundane, the daily gratitude that we need to have for what we've been provided. And like, we had a great conversation with Elsie yesterday about how she woke up in the morning and this is maybe a little personal, but a little anxious and whatever she had going on. And she heard the birds outside chirping, and she remembered the Bible verse talking about, why do you worry so much about yourself when you know that the Lord provides for the birds of the sky, the birds outside. And it really brings you back to the moment of realizing, yes, the Lord is here for me and he's providing for me. And how much more does he love me than the birds, that I worry about, this or that, or getting a new car, or all these things that are daily worries in America. But when you go somewhere else and see people that are just really, really grateful for what they have, and it's so, so little compared to what you've been given and the gifts you've been given, that it changes your perspective.
Should we end right there? That's probably perfect.
Well, I don't know how to wrap this thing up. It's been a lot of different conversations.
What are you thinking? We've talked about identity. We've talked about purpose. We've talked about
gratitude,
and living a life of service. And you're the person that just came back from 2 countries that you fell in love with, and you're a whole different generation than I. And if anything, I feel encouraged. I'm reminded, we might be leading this podcast, but I'm reminded what I need to step up my game.
Yeah.
It's easy for me to say, do these things, don't do these things. You know what I just did? I encouraged myself. Kristine, here's how you might be able to step up your game. But what are you thinking?
In all honesty, our conversation about coffee got me thinking that we need to buy some Nespresso pods for the Nespresso at home.
That sounds very first world.
It does sound very first world, but I have really enjoyed the Nespresso. But I don't know. Yeah, I really think that it's really fun to have someone to talk to, and someone that's willing to talk about these deep, interesting topics that most people don't think about, or maybe are scared to approach, or they're just outside of what people daily talk about. And to have someone and to encourage each other a little bit is something that's really, really exciting, and something that I think lights a fire in my heart to continue with what I'm doing, or pursue the Lord's purpose even more for my life. And I'm very excited to do that alongside of you and have the support, and to continue the One Pebble podcast and listen from our listeners, and have a lot more guests on that we can continue to encourage and learn from, and have them encourage us back. So I'm really excited. Thank you for having me on again.
I love all that you've said, and you've encouraged me, Harris. And you're right. These are super fun conversations to just keep ahead of ourselves and in the forefront of our thinking. So it's been a lot of fun. Why don't you throw out the last pebble for our listeners? We believe on the One Pebble podcast that if you throw a pebble into water, it can create immense ripples and an impact for Christ and his kingdom that cannot even be measured. And so, is there any encouragement from the topics that we talked about, or anything that you would like to say?
I don't really have any special insight. I did bring the book that I wanted to share, so it's called Stewards, Not Owners. I have nothing to do with the authors or anything, so it's just something that I've really enjoyed. And honestly, I've never brought a highlighter out in books, and as you can see, I've highlighted many times in here. So it's just really given me an interesting perspective on stewardship, and I'd really like people to read it if you're interested.
Tell the listeners the premise of the book.
Yeah, it's talking about the joy of aligning your money with your faith, but it's really talking more about the joy of aligning your talents, treasure, and time with your faith, and talking about how God can use money to help people around the world and to help people in your own communities. So I'm very excited about what I've learned and putting it into my life, and that's kind of my one pebble is read some more books.
I love that, and I think too, you can replace giving money with talent, like you said, or time. And so people can give back in many different ways.
Yeah, and the whole purpose is everything that we've been given, our bodies, our resources, the time here on earth. Like people say, when the Lord calls me home, it's like he's giving you today. How are you going to use today to reflect your time to grow his kingdom and to grow his purpose for your life? And I think that's really exciting, especially as a 21-year-old, to step into that before you get too far down the road of doing other things or focusing on yourself. I'm really excited, and I hope people continue to hold me accountable with that desire.
Harris, thank you for inspiring us and sharing with us today. I'm excited about you. I'm excited about our conversation. Now, you know what I'm excited about is when we leave here, we get to look for opportunities to make a difference.
How do we end this thing? Do we say one pebble out?
One pebble out. 1, 2, 3. One pebble out. This has been the One Pebble Podcast. One pebble, so many ripples. What will you do to make a difference?